Hello everyone, welcome to lecture 2 of Accounting Standard 10 Property Plant and Equipment. In the last lecture we studied till what is a biological asset and what are bearer plants. All that is very important from MCQ point of view. Today we will study with the initial measurement at cost and some more concepts, and they are already very well explained in the standard. They are not complicated like yesterday. So basically reading itself is sufficient. If you all are attentive, all the points are very nicely explained in the study material itself by the institute. So whatever we are going to study today, it is just a matter of reading. Be attentive to what we are reading. Examples itself are given to support the same. Look at it. Very first we take up with the point of recognition of assets. Now recognition means recording of assets. Okay, recognition means recording of assets. So condition is when do we record the assets in the books of account and how do we record the assets in the books of accounts. Criteria for recognition means conditions. Criteria means conditions. When will we record any amount or any item or anything as an asset in our book of account? What is the condition? Okay, when would we record anything as an asset in our books of account? The cost of an item of PPE, that is property, plant and equipment, should be recognized as an asset if and only if two conditions are there. One, if it's probable, means very likely, good chances that future economic benefits associated with the asset will flow to the entity, means in future we are going to get economic benefits from that item. Okay, economic benefits means monetary returns. We are going to earn money. Simple language, we are going to earn money from that item in future. First condition for taking it as an asset. Second, the cost of the item can be measured reliably. Cost can be measured reliably. Generally, cost can be measured reliably. You have the bill, you have the invoice, and that shows, you have the vouchers available that shows what should be the cost. So two simple conditions to be satisfied when to record any item as an asset. Condition 1, we must earn money from that asset in future, and condition 2, the cost, there should be some proof or evidence which shows the cost of that item. The degree of certainty attached to the flow of future economic benefits must be assessed. This should be based on the evidence available at the date of initial recognition, that is usually the date of purchase. The entity should be assured that it will receive the rewards attached to the asset and it will incur the associated risks, which will only generally be the case when the rewards and risks have actually passed to the entity, means you are the owner of that asset. Okay, the title of ownership should have passed on to you, then only the risk of that asset also belongs to you and the reward, monetary return of that asset also belongs to you. Until then the asset should not be recognized. Quite obviously, once you get the title of ownership, once you get the papers of ownership of that asset, then only you can record that asset in the books of accounts. Example is given over here. One example we had seen yesterday of biological assets. So today example number 2. A plant and machinery is purchased for rupees 20 lakhs. That much only. That's it. Now you purchase a plant and machinery of 20 lakhs. Using that plant and machinery, will we produce goods? Yes. Selling that goods, will we earn income? Yes. So first condition is satisfied. We are going to get future economic benefits. Now you purchase plant and machinery for 20 lakhs. So from whosoever you purchase this plant and machinery, they'll give you the bill, they'll give you the invoice. So the second condition, cost, can also be measured reliably. Both conditions are satisfied. You can record it as an asset in the books of accounts. See, it is explained. It satisfies the recognition criteria. Future economic benefits will flow to the entity in the form of the capability to produce goods using the machinery, sell them and earn profits, as I explained you right now. Similarly, its price can be measured reliably from the purchase invoice. Therefore, it qualifies to be recognized as property, plant and equipment. I hope everyone is clear with the two conditions. So from MCQ point of view, these two conditions, all of you mark it important. They can ask you, they may mention the conditions and then they can ask you only A, only B, both A and B, none of the above. That way MCQ can be framed from these conditions. Spare parts. Treatment of spare parts. Now spare parts means what? Additional loose tools, equipments which are used along with the major asset. So how to treat that spare parts? See, spare parts normally are part of inventories, stock, current assets. Okay, and they are huge in number. Fixed assets are something which are less in number. Spare parts are something which are huge in number. So spare parts generally, as and when we consume them, use them, we debit them to P&L account, and if they are unused, we don't take them as a fixed asset. We don't take them as PP. We take them as current assets. So this is a basic requirement and condition for a spare part. Okay. Treatment of spare part is generally when you use them, you debit to P&L account. If you are not using them, if they are lying unused, you treat them as current assets in asset side. So spare parts are usually treated as inventories, that is stock, and recognized in profit or loss as and when consumed. This can be asked in MCQ. Okay, my important point. Example is given. Small spare parts of machinery are purchased at a cost of 1.25 lakhs and stored by the entity. Now these are regularly issued when required by the maintenance department. So small spare parts, if in machinery screw is broken, then screw will be issued, you'll fix it up. Nut bolts are broken, you'll issue that, you will fix it up. So you issue as and when required, because when you use the machinery, these things are required. The balance of the spare parts on hand at the balance sheet date was worth rupees 70,000. Means from 1.25 lakh 70,000, so 50,000 you have used during the year. So the consumed part of 55,000 should be shown as an expense in the statement of profit and loss, and the balance of 70,000 should be carried forward as inventory, and inventory means it applies by AS2. So its accounting should be done as per accounting standard 2. Inventory doesn't come in AS10. So here the treatment of the inventory will be done as per accounting standard 2. So this all can be asked in MCQ. Very simple. As I said, today's whatever lecture is going to cover is very simple, and if you read the study material, it is all supported with example. You will be easily able to understand the same. Major spare parts. And then the word major, circle the word major, highlight the word major. Major means big. So major spare parts and standby equipments are treated as property, plant and equipment when they are expected to be used over more than one period. So big amount, major amount of spare parts and equipments will be treated as property, plant and equipment if you are expecting it to use for more than one accounting period. They are included in non-current assets from the date the cost is incurred. Example, Indulge Limited purchased an item of machinery of 2 lakhs together with major spare parts worth rupees 25,000, not readily available in the market. Now why did you purchase this spare parts of 25,000 along with machinery itself? Because it is not readily available in the market. So what happens if suddenly your machinery breaks down, okay, and because that spare part is not readily available in the market, your smooth working of the enterprise will get affected. Maybe for days and days you are not able to produce the goods. So on the safer side, you buy that spare parts of 25,000 and keep it aside, and that is a major spare part. You know that will be required immediately, and if not available, it will affect your production. This should recognize the total of 2.25 lakhs, 2 lakhs plus 25,000 of major spare parts as property, plant and equipment. So it can be asked in MCQ. Is major spare part debited to P&L account, current assets, inventory, property, plant and equipment, fixed asset? You'll select property, plant and equipment as a fixed asset. All these are very important from MCQ point of view. Spare parts, to continue further. Those spare parts which can be used exclusively, underline exclusively, with an item of PPE are accounted as PPE. Means those spare parts can be used only with this item. Tailor-made. Tailor-made means you have made got it constructed or made a particular fixed asset which requires a spare part, and it cannot be used with any other machinery. So you have to treat that as a part of this fixed asset itself. Example, Z Limited purchase made to order. I told you tailor-made machine of rupees 5 lakhs, and alongside also purchase a spare part worth rupees 60,000 which can be only used with this machinery and not any machinery elsewhere. Advise Z Limited on the accounting treatment of spare parts. Obviously, you have to add this 60,000 in 5 lakhs. Okay, because exclusively with this machinery only the spare part is going to be used. It's not a general spare part. The cost of machinery will become 5,60,000. Along with the cost of machinery, the cost of spares also should be capitalized. That is recognized in the carrying value. Thus, the total carrying value is rupees 5.6 lakhs. Carrying value means book value. So you will record the value of machinery in the books of accounts as 5.6 lakhs. Any expenditure that meets these recognition criteria must be accounted for as an asset PPE. The standard makes reference to individually insignificant items that can be aggregated. So small items, if you can aggregate and they become of big value, then also you must recognize them as an asset. However, very often in practice, entities adopt an accounting policy to expense items, because what happens? Small items, if aggregated, can become of big value, but the headache is its accounting, maintaining the records. So what does the enterprise do? Though it may be of big value, but to shirk off, okay, to avoid the maintenance of books of accounts in huge number, it may be treated, because maintaining that may be very difficult and more expensive. Okay, it may be costly to pay an accountant. It may be costly to hire human resource just to maintain the accounting for that separately. In that situation, you can debit it to P&L account. So, however, very often in practice, entities adopt an accounting policy to expense items that are below a predetermined minimum level in order to avoid undue costs in maintaining the relevant records, which includes tracking the whereabouts of the asset. The definition and recognition criteria can also be applied to spare parts, although these are often carried as inventory and expense as and when utilized. However, we already studied major spare parts are usually recognized as PPE when an entity expects to use them during more than one period. Now, safety and environmental equipments. Now, safety and environmental equipments which may be used for more than one accounting period must be taken as property, plant and equipment only. I'll give you for example, in a coal mining industry, they may be using that safety equipments. They have helmets with lights, they have gloves, they have shoes. Now, without that, you cannot do the production. And if that safety equipment, if it's a kind of uniform which is to be replaced every year, then you take it as an expense. But if that safety equipment, you file that helmet may be used for 5 years and you are purchasing thousands of helmets for the workers, then you can treat them as your property, plant and equipment. So without that, you cannot work. Okay, without that you cannot work, you cannot produce the goods. So that also becomes a part of your property, plant and equipment. We'll see it with some more examples over here. The acquisition of such property, plant and equipment, although not directly increasing the future economic benefits of any particular existing item of PPE, but may be necessary for an entity to obtain the future economic benefits from its other assets. So directly that helmet is not producing goods, but without its use also, you cannot produce the coal from the mines. Means may be necessary for an entity to obtain the future economic benefits from its other assets. Such items of PPE qualify for recognition as assets because they help an entity to derive future economic benefits from related assets in excess of what could be derived had those items not been acquired. They have given a different example here. For example, a chemical manufacturer may install new chemical handling process to comply with the environmental requirements for production and storage of dangerous chemicals. See this, dangerous chemicals cannot be left aloof. So maybe this cabinet storage of dangerous chemicals, this is itself of thousands and lakhs of rupees. Now without having this, you are going to produce the chemicals, you cannot store them. So until you cannot store them, you cannot even produce them. So without the help of such storage and process, you may not be able to produce the chemicals. The value of this storage safety equipment will also be treated as PPE. So related plant enhancements are recognized as an asset because without them, the entity is unable to manufacture and sell chemicals. However, the resulting carrying amount means book value of such an asset and related assets is reviewed for impairment in accordance with AS 28 impairment of assets. Impairment means when it becomes useless. So when it becomes useless, then its impairment, loss, etc. will be treated or dealt with AS 28, not under AS 10. Now, initial measurement. Whenever you buy any asset or you construct the asset on your own, how do you initially measure it? Obviously at cost. Your answer would be at cost. But what is that cost? We need to understand in detail. Once an item of property, plant and equipment qualifies for recognition as an asset, it will be initially measured at cost. Obviously at cost. But what does this cost include? Okay, what is this cost? The cost of property, plant and equipment, PPE, comprises of first, purchase price, including import duties. If you have imported the plant and machinery from other country, import duty will be added in its cost. Non-refundable purchase taxes. If any tax is paid which is non-refundable, that should also be added in the cost of asset. Less trade discounts and rebates. If you have received any discounts, rebates, that will be obviously subtracted. Costs directly attributable. We'll see in detail in the next slide. Costs directly attributable to bring the asset to the location and condition necessary for it to be used in a manner intended by the management. So many expenses are incurred to bring the asset to that location and condition and make it usable. That expenses will all get added in the cost of asset. Initial estimates of cost of dismantling or decommissioning, removing and site restoration at present value if the entity has an obligation that it incurs on the acquisition of the asset or as a result of using the asset other than to produce inventories. AS 29 prescribes that the discounting of such provisions and provision is to be made at present value by applying pre-tax discount rate. See, what does this indicate? Suppose you take a particular building property on rent, on lease of 20 years. Now you ask the person from whom you have taken on lease, lessor basically, that can I make changes in this property? Because I'm going to use it for 20 long years, or maybe 10 long years, or maybe 15 long years. The person says, yes, you make the changes, no problem. But when you give it back to me, I want the property in the current condition only. I repeat, when you give the property back to me after 10, 15, 20 years, I want it in the same condition as it is right now so that I can lease it to someone else. Here, right now, when you make the changes in that property, maybe you construct several rooms, you construct walls, etc. So that all will be included in the cost. But you have to estimate that after 15 years, what will be the cost involved in dismantling all this, breaking all this, and to give it back to the builder in the current condition. That expense which you are going to incur after 15-20 years to make this asset in the today's condition will also be included in your today's cost. Now, in lease we studied that after 1 year 110 is equal to 100 rupees today, after 2 years 120 is equal to 100 rupees today, same way. This cost you are going to incur after 15 or 20 years. So in today's cost, you have to include its today's value. That's why this last sentence, the discounting, I told you discount rate in lease accounting, when you convert the future value into today value, the rate of discount is called discount rate. The discounting means converting future value into today's value. Of such provisions and provision is made at the present value by applying pre-tax discount rate. See, it is explained with the help of an example. NDA Limited has put plant in 2010 on leasehold land. The leasehold period is 15 years. The NDA Limited has to dismantle the plant, removing from the leasehold and restore the leasehold land at the same position at the inception of lease. Means the lessor has put this condition that you construct the plant right now, but after 15 years you remove the plant and give me the land, plot of land as it is. The estimated cost of dismantling the plant after 15 years will be 20 crore rupees. So you obviously lessor is not going to incur this huge sum of 20 crore. He will say you only dismantle and give it back to me. Now the pre-tax rate of the time value of money and risk specific to the liability is 10%. Means 20 crores you are going to incur after 15 years. What is its today's value? We have to find at the rate of 10%. Calculate the amount to be included in the cost of plant. The pre-tax cost of dismantling of plant to be paid after 15 years would be, pre-tax cost means today's value would be 20 crores divided by 10%. So 1 plus 10%, 1.1 raised to the power 15. This is the formula. As I told you, after 1 year 110 will be 100 rupees today. How do you get that 100 rupees today? 110 divided by 1.1. So this way after 15 years means 20 crores divided by 1.1 raised to the power 15. So it's 20 crores which you will spend after 15 years. Its today's value is 4 crores 78 lakh 78,410 rupees. This 4 crores 78 lakh 78,410 will be added in today's cost of plant and then shown on the asset side. So this amount to be included in the cost of plant in 2010. I hope all of you understand this point of dismantling. Now we understand, okay, just now we discussed what all will be included in the cost, purchase, including import duties, taxes, etc. Then second point we discussed directly attributable cost. So what is that directly attributable cost? Examples of directly attributable cost include, directly attributable means which can be directly connected and related with the assets. Employees benefits means salaries and wages of those employees who are involved in the construction or acquisition of an asset. Cost of site preparation means the site may be in a very weird condition. You have to prepare that site to make it usable and put the asset over there. So that will also be included. Initial delivery and handling costs. Initially the delivery of the asset is to be done at the site. Transportation costs. Handling cost means you have to keep the asset at that site safe and secure until you start using it, so that handling cost is to be included. Installation and assembly cost will be included. Cost of testing that asset, less the net proceeds from the sale of any product arising from the test production. So you test that, you produce some goods, you sell those goods as scrap because they are not the main production, finished goods. So that scrap value will minus, and then the cost of testing will also get added. Borrowing costs also will be included to the extent permitted by AS accounting standard of borrowing cost. So there is a separate accounting standard on borrowing cost. As per those terms and condition, borrowing cost means interest, etc. If you have taken the loan to buy that asset, will also be included. Professional fees means architect, etc. who has been hired to design that site, that professional fees also will be included. Not directly attributable cost. Which expenses are not to be included in directly attributable cost? Examples of costs that are not directly attributable costs and therefore must be expensed. Expense means taken to debit side of P&L account. In the income statement include cost of opening a new facility, often referred to as pre-operative expenses. Means initially you make some market research, you spend some money, you hire some agents, you give them transportation costs so that he searches sites for you at various places. All that opening a new facility pre-operative expenses are not to be included. Cost of introducing a new product or a service, including advertising and promotional costs of conducting business in a new location or with a new class of customer. That are your marketing expenses, they cannot be included. Training cost. If initially you give the training to your workers to operate on that machines, that you have to debit to P&L account. Administration and other general overheads. Costs incurred while an asset capable of being used as intended is yet to be brought in use, is left idle, or is operating at below full capacity. So when the asset is lying unused over there, the cost to maintain that asset also won't be included. Then initial operating losses cannot be included. Cost of relocating or reorganizing the part of or all of an entity's operations. So if you are changing from one location to another location, then all are your losses. That cannot be included in the cost of asset. The income and related expenses of operation that are incidental to the construction or development of an item of PPE should be recognized in the income statement. So income also means until you start using that asset, if any income you are deriving from that, if you are incurring any expense related to that, then all should go to P&L account. See, example is given which is very easily understandable. For example, income may be earned through using a building site as a car park until construction starts. So because incidental operations are not necessary to bring an item to the location and condition necessary for it to be capable of operating in the manner intended by the management, the income and related expenses of incidental operations, that is car parking, are recognized in profit or loss and included in their respective classification of income and expense. Whatever income you earn from that parking will be taken in P&L credit side. Whatever expense you incur in maintaining that parking will be taken in P&L on debit side. So these things cannot be included in directly attributable costs. Cost of dismantling or decommissioning. You already studied earlier one example. Okay, what example? That you construct and put a plant in the piece of land. So if you remove that plant, 20 crores value, 4 crores, 78 lakhs something. Same thing is explained again. But why is it explained again in your accounting standard? Because this is covered under different accounting standard. So in detail, some part of that accounting standard provisions are again put over here. The elements of cost to be incorporated in the initial recognition of an asset are to include the estimated cost of its eventual dismantlement, that is decommissioning cost. Decommissioning means putting it back in the original condition. That is the cost of asset is grossed up, means added in the current cost for these estimated terminal cost. Terminal cost means when you terminate that facility, with the offsetting credit being posted to the liability account. So same thing what we understood few slides ago is explained again. It is important to stress that recognition of a liability can only be affected when all the criteria set forth in AS 29 for the recognition and provisions are met. So basically dismantling and decommissioning is covered under AS 29, and that is why it is discussed again over here. Now it seems odd to capitalize decommissioning, or you may be finding why should we include that dismantling cost today? It seems odd, but you have to include, because see from the lessor's point of view, he cannot incur that huge cost again in future. It seems odd to capitalize decommissioning costs that are not going to emerge until later in asset's life. However, if there is an obligation, because it's an obligation means the lessor has put a condition that you have to give it back in the same condition. As a direct consequence of acquiring or constructing the property, plant and equipment to incur further costs in the future that cannot be avoided. A provision is recognized in accordance with AS 29. Therefore, the decommissioning costs at the end of the asset's life are just as much as the cost of acquiring or constructing the asset as the cost incurred at the start of asset's life. Decommissioning or similar costs such as dismantling expenditure can often arise in connection with operating lease and leasehold improvements. Generally operating, not finance. Because in finance lease, you give an option to the buyer to buy the asset, so it is his cost only. He may not change the condition. But in operating lease, you take back and give on lease to someone else. So you want it in the same condition. So generally it arises in operating lease. Example is given. For example, the terms of operating lease may allow the tenant to tailor means change, the property to meet the specific needs by say building an additional internal wall, but on condition that the tenant returns the property at the end of lease in its original state. This will entail the dismantling of the internal wall, breaking of that wall. On building the internal wall, the tenant creates an obligation to remove the wall which cannot be avoided, which it cannot avoid. Therefore, he must recognize the provision for that obligation in accordance with AS 29. Means you must create that provision liability that you have to spend this 5 lakh rupees after 4 or 5 years, that will show on the liabilities side. The cost to the tenant therefore of the leasehold improvement is not only the cost of building the wall but also the cost of restoring the property at the end of the lease by dismantling the internal wall. So asset side also you'll add that 5 lakh in the value of asset, and liability side you'll create a liability of that 5 lakhs also. As such, both costs are capitalized when the internal wall is built and will be recognized in the P&L account over the useful life of the asset. Generally, the expected lease term as a part of depreciation charge. Obviously, when you add it in the cost of asset, the depreciation will be provided on the total value, including that 4 crore 78 lakhs. Examples of decommissioning costs that may be capitalized as a part of cost of asset typically arise. Now, generally, these things arise in which situations? Oil and gas and electricity industries, market important in MCQs, it can be asked. Generally, this dismantling or decommissioning cost arises in which types of businesses? Oil and gas and electricity industries, where environmental damage is caused by, say, the construction and commissioning of the facility. For example, the oil platform. You construct the oil platform, it may cause the environmental damage. As an example referred to above, or a nuclear plant. So when you give it back after the 20-25 years, you do restore it in the original condition. Similar costs are incurred in other industries such as abandonment costs in the mining and extractive industries, cleanup and restoration costs of landfill sites and environment, cleanup costs in the number of industries. So all these examples are important. You underline and mark it important from MCQ point of view. It is to be noted, make it noted that estimated cost of dismantling is to be in the cost of property, plant and equipment, and will be as per its value as per AS 29. Now, cost of self-constructed asset. So what is a self-constructed asset? You don't buy the asset, you construct and you make the asset, plant and equipment on your own. The cost of self-constructed asset is determined using the same principles as for an acquired asset. If an entity makes similar asset for sale in the normal course of business, cost of the asset is usually the same as the cost of constructing an asset for sale as per AS2. Therefore, any internal profit are eliminated in arriving at such cost. Internal profit means what? In constructing the asset from one department, you transfer the things to other department and you transfer that at profit. Okay, because you may directly be selling those items in the market also. For example, if I say car dealers, car showroom dealers. So car showroom dealer may be having a separate department where they transfer one part, let us say wipers or the glasses or the engine oils. They transfer it to another department at the selling price, which includes the profit. Now here, when you have such items which are internally transferred and include the profit margin, it should be eliminated, because that is, you are not selling it to the customers. Internally you are transferring these things in your own organization. Similarly, the cost of abnormal amounts of wasted material, labor or other resources incurred in self-constructing an asset is also not included in the cost of asset. You directly debit them as your loss in P&L account. AS 16 borrowing cost establishes criteria for the recognition of interest as a component of the carrying amount of self-constructed item of property, plant and equipment, so that interest can be included, interest on loan can be included, but as per the conditions of AS 16. Now, today we have understood so many points up till the cost. Tomorrow in the next lecture, we will take up with the examples. In your study material last page, there are few examples. And those examples are based on the concept we have studied today. So all of you go through this lecture once again very carefully, or the study material very carefully. Based on these things, we will solve practical examples given at the end of your study material in tomorrow's lecture. Okay, so that will be all in today's lecture. See you all tomorrow in the next lecture with the solution of those practical questions. Bye everyone. Take care. See you in the next lecture.